tree surgery. Let's do it. Okay, we're actually at a pretty nice point in our code here. We're a little bit happy that we have a page and we can see these different sections. And when we do look at the show source, our function show just is now totally divorced from any details about what we're actually showing. Okay, so we're not hard-coded into anything. We can reuse this code very, very easily. So I'm really happy with show just. Not so happy with all this code to generate the menu bar. Okay. I mentioned aardvarks, and this line here has to talk about aardvarks 3 times. It's a bunch of copy-pasted code here. Let's go ahead and take this copy-pasted code, and we're going to write a function that creates this code. Okay, so here's what we're going to want to do. Let me copy this, go to a different window, and I just want to talk about the code we have here. I'll stretch it out so it fits on one line. Okay, so if we look at this, here's what we want to do. I'm going to make an A tag, okay, whose body is just aardvarks, okay, with attributes href being hash aardvarks. What else? On click. Those were the only 2 attributes we had, href and on click. And it was, yeah, this whole string here. Okay. Okay, so we want to go ahead and do that. And I guess technically we should remember we're followed by a br tag, which is empty, doesn't have any attributes going on. Okay. So here's what we want to do. We can go ahead and do that in JavaScript. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to, again, we're going to loop over this animal paragraphs div. And every time we loop over it, we're going to actually go and create one of these nodes and stick it into the enclosing paragraph. Okay? So I'm going to start with my HTML is going to have an empty paragraph here, and then I'm going to go and dynamically have my JavaScript program, when the page loads, it's going to run, and one of the things it's going to run is, hey, loop through animal paragraphs, those 5 types of animals, and add these 2, for every animal, add the A and the BR tag, one by one, okay? So let's go ahead and actually look at the code that does that. This is going to be Hiding Parts version 3a. And when we look at the page, before we even show the source, since I'm going to turn it into a function that goes ahead and creates this menu bar here, I've gone ahead and added echidna. Awesome. And notice that I have 2. I have one menu bar sitting up in this table, and I have another menu bar. I put it, it's kind of weird, but we're in the middle of an H3 tag. So in the middle of the header, I put this entire menu bar here. Notice that I can go ahead and choose this and grab the different items, okay, and have it reflect. And I can equally well choose the items here. They both work and do the same thing, okay. You might even see how the links get colored, and I'll let you think about why my browser's doing that. Okay, so let's go ahead and look at this view source of this page. Okay, I'm going to scroll down to the table with 1 row and 2 columns there. And we have in that first row, the first column was simply an empty paragraph. This is where all the stuff is going to get added. I give it an ID so we can talk about it later. Okay. And then I go ahead and have this div with the 5 different paragraphs. We've seen that before. So that part is the same. And here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go ahead and I call it create on-off menu. Okay. And I'm going to give it hey, where do you want to put this new menu? Give me the ID place where we can put it. So in particular, hey, I'll give it nav bar, so it's going to be putting it into this paragraph here. And then I'll say, hey, again, what things do you want in this little on-off menu? And so I'm giving it the div containing the 5 paragraphs of interest. Okay. The nice thing about this is if I go and look at how many times echidna is mentioned, echidna, twice in the entire file, once because I actually wanted to mention it inside my paragraph, which was totally up to me. To make this whole thing work, we only had to really put it once, a paragraph with the ID echidna, and that's going to create this entire thing here. So now when somebody comes along, when some intern has said, hey, make a paragraph for every single animal in the zoo, all they're going to have to do is add more paragraphs right inside here, right inside this animal paragraphs div, and that's all they have to do. Boom. Yeah, this is pretty awesome. Okay. So let's go see how that happens. The code that actually creates this. So again, we have this second function we're going to write, create on-off menu. Okay, so let's go look at create on-off menu. Okay, and it's a little bit, looks a little bit longer at first, but if it's not going to be too bad. We're going to go ahead and I'll call it menu holder node, the place where we're going to put this on-off menu. And then the choice source node, I guess that's what I called the thing that, hey, that's where we're going to get the items for the menu. Okay, that's the animal paragraphs. Okay, so wait, I do my document get element by ID. I have these 2 nodes now. I have this node where I'm going to stick everything, and then I have another node to loop over. Okay, so just like before, for everything, I'm going to go to the choice source node, go to its children, and I'm going to loop over that array. So for while I is less than the length, go ahead and I'm at my variable a child, and it is children sub I. Okay, so that's depending on I, that's going to be aardvark or bees or Cheshire or whatever. Okay, so now what do I need to do? I want to go ahead and bring this back up here. I want to make an A tag. Okay. Here's how I make an A tag. Here's the JavaScript for that. I call document.createElement and I give it A. This is making a disembodied node. There's the DOM with all of its stuff there, documents this whole DOM, and then we're making this disembodied node that's sort of floating over here for the moment. Don't worry, we'll add it to the tree in a moment. Okay, great. I call this new menu item because it's the new on-off item, okay? And then I want to go ahead and I want to make a text node that contains the text of aardvark or bees or Cheshire. So remember here, whose body is aardvark's. Okay, so document.createText node. So there's create element to make a HTML tag, if you will. Create text node if you just want to make text. Okay, so now we have these 2 things here. Hey, I want to make this text here, this word. Oh, by the way, achild.id. What is that? Oh, remember achild is looping through those paragraph items. So I'm looking at the ID of that paragraph, which was, again, aardvark or bees or echidna. And that's going to become the text. Hey, make this text node here I just made, put it inside this little disembodied A tag. Make it the body of that. Okay, so how do I do that? Append child. I take this new menu item, that's the disembodied A node, and say, hey, append child, this new text node that I just created. So that's how we have an A node whose thing inside the A is aardvark. Okay, but now I need 2 attributes. I need to add the href attribute and the onClick attribute. Again, just mentioning that. Hey, I need to have an href attribute that was a hash sign followed by aardvark's or whatever the child ID was. Okay, great. Here's how we do this. There's another method called setAttribute. So there's 3 important methods here. Create element, append child, and setAttribute. 3, there we are. And I guess create text node, that's sort of a lot like create element. So those are the only three fancy schmancy JavaScript methods we're talking about. New menu item set attribute. So I go up to that disembodied A node that now has aardvark as its text, and say, hey, set an attribute. I want the attribute href, and its value should be this string here. A # string appended to the child ID. Okay, so hash aardvark. Okay, great. Now we have A and hash aardvark. We need on click. And this is one, oops, let me get back over here. This is one where, you know, if I had not written this out by hand at first and known exactly the show just, I might easily get confused. I need to make a string, so I need to make an attribute on click, and the string that I want it to, the value is the letters show just, followed by an open paren character, followed by a tick mark character. I'm going to get my tick marks and quotes marks wrong if I hadn't written it out as a test case almost. So yeah, show just, open paren, tick mark. And then animal paragraphs. Oh, that was because, hey, that was the choice source ID. Okay, so sure enough, right here, show just, open paren, tick mark, show choice ID. After the animal paragraphs was a string. We had the string that was a tick mark, a comma, a space, and a tick mark. Yeah, that's, actually I don't have a space in what I wrote here, but my code is putting a space in there, that's fine. And then aardvarks, okay, that's achild.id, okay, and then the close paren and a semicolon. I need to be really aware of every single character inside this onClick attribute so that I can create the string programmatically. Okay, great. Now I go ahead and I do the same thing. I go to the, I've now made this, A node. I've given it aardvarks as the body. I've given it an href attribute. I've given it an onClick attribute. Now, go find the DOM and splice it into the DOM at the right point. And append child is all we need. Go to the menu holder node and say append child of the new menu item. And I wanted a BR tag as well. Menu holder node dot append child. And I just did this all in one line, document create element BR. I didn't need to add anything to that BR tag, it was ready to go. So, yeah. Now, that is why echidna is only needs to be mentioned once in the only place in this thing here. Okay. So that is pretty cool. Oops. And we end up, if you go and look at this now, again, I called this create on-off menu, and I put one inside here. If we go look at the view source, create on-off menu, I put one into the nav bar. You know, I did another one. I made a little H4 tag. I'm sorry, not an H3, it was an H4. H4 headline that had another duplicate nav bar, since we can now make them for free, and did the H4 tag. Oh, and then I ran a script. I said, hey, create on-off menu, still using animal paragraphs, but stick it inside navbar 2. And that's why we got 2 copies of this thing. Yeah, so this is pretty cool. Our code for creating the on-off menu and the show just, those two sort of work together. You can just call them. All you need to do is tell me, hey, where do you want to stick the on-off menu? So the person writing the HTML had to make a paragraph with an ID to put the menu in the future. Okay. And then they had to go ahead and put a div around all their paragraphs of interest, and they needed to give each of those paragraphs an ID. Once they do that, we're out of there. This is general code. I can now use the exact same 2 functions and create on-off menus for the 50 states without having to change this code one bit. In fact, I can now let an intern go and just write the plain old HTML, and they don't have to know a bit of JavaScript. So, okay. We're going to come back with 2 really small little items, but this is the cool part. You've made it through this. Give yourself a pat on the back. Awesome.